I told him, I was like, look, I'm glad they recorded. Okay. So, okay, so thank you so much, Erica, for taking this time. Um, and I want to have this session to basically give people information because I know a lot of people,
Yep.
it's a lot going on. It's very heavy. As we record this, it's still fresh. People are still in shock, you know. So I want to make sure we get information to those affected in the wildfires in Altadena, in particular. I know that's where you are concentrating your efforts. So I don't want people to think that this is, this is a information session. Okay.
Okay.
Um, so let the viewers know who you are, um, and about your company, and then we'll move into just the process that they need to go through, the next
Okay.
steps.
Sounds good. So my name is Erica Alexis, also known as the Lady Builder, founder and CEO of Bridgeline Development and Construction. I've been in construction for 10 years. I've been in development for close to 15 years now. And we focus primarily in LA City, LA County, and Orange County at the moment. And yeah, we're just here to offer expertise and to help.
Okay, okay, that's good. Now, there's so many different layers to this process, in helping homeowners to rebuild, in Altadena. Um, I mean, from just the cleanup of what is left from the fires, which I've read can take probably will be the longest process. People saying like building the house is easy, but the
Mm-hmm.
the cleanup is hard. So what does this process look like for homeowners who want to rebuild? And tell a little bit about Beacon and what you're doing in the community.
Yeah, so I think like you're right. Everybody's saying what's the, timeline to rebuild. I'm saying with an organized effort, we could rebuild in 5 to 7 years. To be clear, that is actual construction. You're talking about anywhere between 9,000 and 12,000 structures in Altadena alone. So, in regards to site utilities, cleanup, I mean, we're just talking about cleanup. I've been trying to see what the city's plan is for site utilities. That's the largest part. So I know just from meetings that the Army Force was saying 18 months for cleanup, but they also opened it up where the public are able to get whoever they want to clean up. Me, even as a builder, I advise that, if they have the manpower, and they show that over the next few weeks, I know the program is relatively new, that the federal government handle it so it's an organized effort. The key thing for efficiency, I think, is organized. So if they have a program for it, I think that we should let them carry it out. But if there's gaps in it, like I know that there was a complaint that FEMA was taking too long, or from these processes, I know the EPA has their hazardous material removal. We could be of help, but right now it looks like this: EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, is there removing hazardous materials. So that includes anything, just to give you small examples, paint, batteries, little things like that. They're going through the rubble and they're removing these materials. That's standard procedures. It's hazardous. They have a proper procedure for, relocating these articles off of your premises. The second phase from that is away with the rubble, right? So I think right now the federal government includes everything except for the foundation. So, however, I know it was burnt to the ground. God bless them. But everything except for foundations will be removed from the federal government. That's great. Now, the timeline, like I said, it could be anything from a couple months to 18 months. Let's do worst case scenario. Let's say it's 18 months. Now we have site utilities, right? And what people don't understand is site utilities, let's say your water is affected. When I was, actually in Altadena walking the streets, I think they were just doing site analysis. So they were going into the homes, they were specking everything out and seeing how far the damage went back, which means how far do we have to open the street to make sure that we clean all the burnt debris out of the main drains to where they can function again. That's the plumbing. The second thing is they're removing logs with cranes, trying to remove for electrical, transformers going back on the poles. That's the second thing. So we have plumbing and electrical, and that's the piece that I would like to talk about because I would like them to talk more about because we're already overwhelmed with our systems. It's LA County. Imagine how big LA County is. I mean, I know that these people are doing the best they can, but it's still overwhelming. So I think that it's a lot of trying to figure out what we're doing with site utilities and let's just say worst case scenario 3 to 5 years. So now with the 18 months and now with the 3 to 5 years, we're at 7 to 10 years. So my number one concern and the question that has not been answered is yes, we have a timeline for insurance to be reported. I believe it's up to 2 years. Um, do we have an expiration date on how long they will rebuild? Right. So that's the first question. And the furthest I've gotten with that is it depends on the policy. The second thing with that is I don't have insurance because I paid my house off and I didn't want to incur the cost, so I didn't have insurance. So now we're looking at what is the solution for those type of people. So the initial standpoint, I know everything's going really fast. I basically woke up one day and I was like, okay, I know this hurts. I know I was in shock for like 3 days. I did not move from the couch. I was just like, what is happening right now? But I was like, the people on the front lines usually are the ones that could do something, and we want the right people on the front lines. So I put myself into business mode and I was just like, this, no, 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 no. And so I said, let me think about something that nobody's thinking about right now. Let's take this past site utilities, let's take it all the way to the building efforts. And then my brain was like, okay, what's a realistic timeline that can be done? This was, of course, assessing around 2,000 to 7,000 structures. What's a timeline that's realistic and what is efficient? Because you're dealing with 66% of senior citizen population, people, like you said, that have to return to school. If we wait too long, of course, they're going to go into other school systems. Everybody's going to disperse. Community, where are you? Right? And that's typically what we see in history. So, in order for an efficient plan, my goal with what you were asking was Beacon. I mean, that's the name. It's build, empower, advocate, community outreach network. And with that, with Beacon, it was like, what's the one thing we haven't done in history? We haven't come together. Everybody has the same ideas. Oh, we know that we have to design fire retardant materials. Oh, we know that we have to, we have the 10%, landscape where we can build as is. We know we have 30 days for permit processes, right? We know these things that are coming out. We all know them. And we all have talents. And we still have National Association of Minority Architects and all the architects and contractors that have built in that area. We have the ability to rebuild a community without losing its culture, but our race is against time. And Beacon says, how can we cut down the time? So we put together a team of 6 to 8, real estate developers. Developers, what are they good in? Thinking for the next 30 years, thinking about urban planning, spearheading basically all of this. What is one thing that developers have never done or they have done, but they don't have the reputation for? Preserving the equity of the community. This is the perfect case study for us to build in a way where we try to retain as many residents as possible through leadership from development, organization of architects and contractors, and anybody else, surveyors, engineers, everybody in one database. And I always like to say it like this: the best thing you can say is, if this is a master building plan, imagine if you knew what every single house was doing in your building plan and you created a phased tiered development. You would see efficiency, you would be proactive on material shortages, uprising in material costs, you can anticipate it. You treat this like a big project. The reason that Beacon stands out is because it's actually at the helm of majority women and majority African American that have built on a massive macro level. And that's what makes Beacon unique because it's a different landscape. We're looking at with the number one intent of preserving culture. It may change, to be honest. It may change. You know, we're in this and they say, well, I don't want to develop that. I want to build my dream home now. That's all possible in an organized effort. So yeah, so Beacon, just to, shorten it, sorry, that's how we got to Beacon. but
No, no, that's good. That's
but
good.
but Beacon is essentially not to replace anybody. My company's Bridgeline. It's not that, Bridgeline goes obsolete, but Bridgeline is a part of Beacon. And Beacon is this network that we could change history. This is something we've never seen. And so we have to do something we've never done because the other side is I got this contractor here, he's building my property. I got this other contractor here is building my property, right? How long is it going to take for the whole community? Oh, that one house is done, but the rest of the row is obsolete because they don't have contractors they could trust. They don't have this, they don't have that. And I've heard the call of a lot of people are lost. Where do I start with the building process? Where do I go? Who can I trust? People are trying to get my business all around. Typical contractors. How do I make sure they're valid? Where do I check? What do I do? Right. And I know the county's doing a great job of saying like CSLB, we're making a list of people who've worked in LA County before that have a reputation. But imagine if you had a network that basically like did the vetting for you. You know what I mean? Imagine if you had a network where you're like, I want to build a bungalow style or a ranch style or, a modern style. Okay, let me connect you with this architect. Oh, they happen to be from Altadena or familiar with Altadena history. You have like I'm going to all these events and everybody's saying the same thing, but they're not saying it together. And everybody can continue to work how they want to work. But the only difference is if we did Beacon, we would be able to preserve efficiency. Time is where we're going to lose everybody. 5 to 7 years of building time versus 20 years.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So Beacon is a network focused on preserving the community
Equity, the equity
and
of the
equity of the
Altadena.
community
Correct.
and in an efficient way. In an
In an
efficient
efficient,
way.
in an organized, efficient way.
Okay. Okay. Now,
Collaborative. Mm-hmm.
right, right. Um, so what is the process? If someone says, you know what, they've gone through the insurance, you know, Lord, God be with everyone who's dealing with insurance companies. They've gone through insurance companies. So what's next? Like, what's the next step?
Yep. I
Uh,
just got this question 2 days ago from one of my clients.
okay,
So right now, we don't have a moratorium. We have no safety on how long this expedited permit process is going to be. Right now, it's so crazy because it's like everything's moving so fast, right? I just lost my home. I'm dealing with the emotions of it. I'm trying to find a place to live. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And it sucks because it's like, yeah, but we don't know how long these things are going to be extended.
right,
So, my first level of advice from a building perspective, I cannot imagine losing my home. But from a building perspective, as far as order, it would be get your plans drawn up, get your as built, whatever you have at the city, and get it designed and submitted right away. The reason being is because you can have the RTI plans. But here's the thing, and this is why we really have to understand and get answers on the site utilities question because there is an expiration date. So either the city waives the expiration date because you can only have what's called RTI ready to issue plans for a certain time before you have to resubmit. So maybe that's waived, right? We have to also push policy because we have to do things differently. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is having it RTI, let's say we're completely wrong about site utilities and we're ready in 2 years. You have plans ready to go, nothing holding you back. So it really depends on policy. It really depends on government, how it normally goes. If let's say all the rubble was out the way, utilities were restored, submit your plans as soon as possible is what I would advise. However, I mean, at least having them drawn is one step of the process, so then you're not rushed because we're at a stage where we're just slowing down. I think the expediting of it, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, has kind of slowed down. So now it's like, put the pain and the beauty of constructing what is new while you still have it. I think, if you have any pictures, like I asked my client, send me any pictures of your interiors. Luckily, she had a few. We can kind of restore that. And then definitely, like I said, with this network, get with builders or architects that have done restoration. So I would say definitely reaching out to those type of architects that have done restoration work, because they understand that culture. If you want to go there, you still have the opportunity to go completely modern, and that's fine. But I would say start the drawing process just to get that out the way, because we're still going to need preliminary reports, soils reports, all these things. We don't know the damage of the soil. We don't know how deep it goes down. It's so many things we're going to have to assess. But at least if they know what you're trying to build, you have one step out the way. So that's like a tangible thing where it's like, okay, whether I submit now or the government advises that I submit later because it's going to be years, I think that's the first step.
Okay. So the first step would be getting an architect to draw up plans
Mhm.
so that you can have something, you can get an RTI submitted to the city, to the
Well,
county.
no. So an RTI is the end process. You would
The
submit
in-person.
the planning first, then
Okay,
you would
gotcha.
submit to building, right? And then you
Mhm.
would have ready to issue plans. And I mean, like I said, we still have a lot of work to do, a lot of cleanup.
Yes.
So it's not like you
This is
necessarily,
not tomorrow. Yeah.
yeah, but let's leave the city alone. What I'm saying is visualizing the future, doing these drawings, and really, while the memories are still fresh of what you want to retain. Because if we're designing 3 to 5 years ago, you're gonna be like, "House what? I don't remember." It's painful to remember, right? But while it's still fresh, it's like, "Oh, I would like my living room like this. I would like this. I would like that." Now, even if you don't submit, you have something to go from. Things may change, or things may develop, and you say, "Oh, I want to add this, I want to do this, I want to do that." But while the moment is fresh, I think of it as therapeutic, because like I said, my clients' homes in that area, oh, they were gorgeous. Like, I pray that they return and restore to what they had, because that was the culture and that was the style of building. And we do have architects and builders that can build like that, right? But if they go choose to go with something new, it's fine. But right now, if that's their goal, I would say preserve it right now while it's still fresh.
Okay, that makes sense. And you can talk with a lot of architects, they'll do consultations, and while everything is happening and still fresh on everyone's mind, um, you can talk with the architect or somebody just to get a consultation, but with no obligation to use anyone's services at all. Um, so definitely seek out and do your research when you're looking into your architects, your contractors, everything. You want to make sure you get multiple bids and do your research. Like you said, if you want to preserve um, how
Mm-hmm.
your home looked,
Mm-hmm.
look into restoration, architects who are proficient in restoration. Okay, so once you get the plant, the rubble is gone, the debris is gone, you have your plans. What's next? What's next?
Building.
Building.
Just
Okay.
like you said. So a few things. Like, you know, I would say definitely, yeah, just like you said, three bids on all contractors, right? We all price differently. And the reason for that, a lot of people think, oh, why is this price higher and higher? The difference is overhead. So I just want to touch on that. It's not that, it's price gouging or things like that. It's the difference in overhead is what indicates the difference in the price. Also, you also look at things like subcontracting versus internal teams, right? So that's one way. Like, hey, do you have your internal team? Which is very hard in this day and age. I have mine, but for residential, but for commercial, of course, that's typically the way we do business. But it's certain key things that can keep the overhead down. But that's usually the price indicator. I mean, materials are the material price, right? The labor could also differentiate. You know, some
Right.
people pay different based on what level they do work. But I mean, you have to look at that. I think the key thing when getting contractors is seeing an itemized report, right? Usually we do a lump sum. And I think that's kind of what, where I kind of took off so fast because you kind of want to see a la carte. What am I getting? What is the price? If I change my idea on this, I want to know how much, cost is coming off. So I would say, if they give you a lump sum, hey, can you break it down? You don't necessarily have to break it down to the cents, but I want to see how much, break it down by trade. How much is my electrical? How much is my plumbing, how much is my this, and then you have apples to apples. A good thing is also like framework. So if you give them a template and you're just like, okay, these, you can ask your architect, you can say, unless you pick a design build company, which is actually my first recommendation, if you have a contractor that's design build, it's easier because you're less liable for mistakes. They're reliable because they did the design, right? And then they work together, so they have a relationship. So you're looking for an efficient flow. But anyway, if you don't have that, you want to have the architect maybe draft out what's called a request for proposal, RFP. And they basically will say, hey, we need your price for this, right? And usually, what I've seen before I became a design build company, the most successful people, they would actually have their architects review, like, hey, are these all the sections covered in the plans? Because usually owners don't know how to read plans, right? So that's a good reference too. So developing a good relationship with your architect, like I said, if it's not a design build, because usually in a design build, let me tell you the benefits of that as well. Constructability is thought of in the beginning process. We know designers will be like, this will be amazing. And the contractor always comes in and is like, this is expensive, you know?
Right.
So that element is also a benefit. But yeah, I would definitely say that.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now breaking it down, it seems like because it seems really overwhelming, especially with everything that's going on.
With everything going on.
It seems like it would be just a daunting task to have to now become, you know, a general manager over your own home that you never thought you would ever have to,
Yep.
you know, want to do this, right? Um, so once the county gets everything under control about the utilities, everything underneath the streets, um, the debris is gone. You get with your architect, get some consultations, get some recommendations, get some bids on architect as well as your contractors. Um, I say I put in there, write down everything so you can keep a track of everything that you're doing so that you don't get bogged down with all these details.
For sure.
Um, and then you get your request for proposal and make sure that you get an itemized report uh, when you're doing your
Itemized
bids.
bid, yeah, like an estimate.
Right,
So
when you
that
get
is
your estimates.
so that it makes sense to you, right?
Yes,
So it's
that makes
like
sense.
with my bids, I do like 47 lights if it's a two-story. Like what am I ordering? Imagine it's like placing an order. What is in my order, you know? But to back up to what you said, this is so premature
Mhm.
because site utilities have to be answered. Cleanup is great. I think we can run through the cleanup. I think with them opening it up to the public and the federal, I think that's not really that, but we need to know the status of the underground, because, unless these guys, which the firefighters have, unless they're working 24 hours around the clock, we could be looking at some years.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that hurts because with my passion, it's like, I just want everything done now because you're hearing the, elderly. I want my house. This is all I have for my grandchildren. This is that. So it's trying to curb that is definitely a concern. And I think there's two things there's two ways of what reasons of why Beacon became a nonprofit. One, there's a subsidy that we're trying to, well, we're aiming to propose, and that subsidy um, anticipates what's not covered, right? So you have replacement costs, and a lot of people are like, what are they going off of? Because it's not usually a construction cost where we are now. So usually about 60 to 70% of the actual building cost, let's be honest. Building, I don't know where they base their costs off. But I think having, just imagine this, if you had a subsidy for, let's say, design costs, entitlement costs, reporting costs, soils report, engineers reports, all of that, right? You had that in a bucket. Then you were able to have a subsidy, let's say if you decided to use fire retardant materials or anything that made your development extensive, but you wanted to ensure that the structure was safe because you're in this, tree zone area, you have a subsidy for that. That's what we're proposing with Beacon. It's not only, hey, we give you the advice, hey, we're proposing a master development where everybody comes together. We have the time. We could develop this over 2 to 3 years, everybody collaboratively. If you're, a contractor building the insurance company on Lake Avenue and you're a contractor building the grocery store, right up the street, we have your data. We know what you're building. We have a way to see what everybody's building in order for everybody to flow efficiently. So that's what we're really proposing, but we're just trying to think ahead of what are these costs of people that are going to get hit. And initially, when Beacon, because like you said, everything was changing every day, all day. Initially, it was building a plan for those that were underinsured or not insured, because that's where we're going to lose the majority of our community. And that's where people are not thinking about. They're like, oh, where's my insurance? Da, da, da. But I'm getting teary eyed now, but I'm thinking about, sorry, the guys that are like, oh, no one told me to renew my insurance when I purchased my property. I mean, when I paid off my property. And that is the concern of Beacon. You know what I mean? Like everything from the top to bottom. So you have your insurance. My one concern is, will it expire before we build? If it's 7 years, are we stuck? Where do you get tired? If you're asset rich and cash poor, what are we doing when these resources run out? Will you ever be able to come back home? Or will you have to give it up and you don't have anything to give to your grandchildren? So that's where it comes from. Like mine wasn't a fire, but I lost everything in the 2008 crash and we were asset rich, and I know that feeling. I know that feeling of living on couches and trying to get back up, and your family on different couches because you all can't go to one place. Like, that's why I was like, history cannot repeat itself. History cannot repeat itself. They canceled insurances before the Tulsa fires. Many people don't know that. History
Mm.
is repeating itself. And we're doing the same thing. Everybody's like selfish and everybody's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just go get my business. I'm gonna just go do this. I'm gonna just go do that. But it's like being out there, the best thing I could have done is getting acquainted every single day after the fires, seeing the mothers crying with their sons in front of the buildings. They don't know their next step. They might be renters. Yeah, that's great. SBA has renters insurance, but what happens after that runs out? That's what is like not being talked about. So our team of developers were thinking through all of the, okay, they're going to need subsidies. Okay, they're going to need this. Ooh, what's a way that we could collaborate to where everybody comes together and maybe partially of the fund, part of the fund is allocated for those that don't have insurance, but they have land as leverage, to build their land, I mean, to build their homes. What policies do we need to push to make sure that they're guarded? These are the conversations that we're trying to push. And that's why we're trying to get all of these creative minded people together. And when we get like a certain number, issuing these town halls where communities can come and have their voice. I started in development, and what made me mad was attending these community meetings and the developer not listening to the people, right?
Mm.
But now we have leverage. They have the ownership of the property.
Right.
Mostly, that's the different part, right? So collaborating with the builders, collaborating with the architects, having the expertise of a developer, and then hearing the community, that may not be possible, but let me tell you what will work. Does that work for you?
Mm.
and we have the time to do it methodically. Oh, we're coming up on this problem. You lost your house. You don't have insurance. Let us think through that. We came up with this solution collaboratively, and it's really really hard to get it together. And that was the goal of Beacon. So
Right. Wow. I mean, it's so powerful what you're doing in the community. How can someone, like you say, someone who may not have had insurance, who couldn't foot the bill of the insurance cost, even though the family has had the home in their family for generations, or all kind of situations that are, I mean, and thousands of properties. You know the number is there. You know it's there. Um, how can someone get in contact with you to work with Beacon, whether they're on the side of they're in need of help or they want to support the cause and work with the Beacon?
thank you. Yeah, they can go to beaconla.org. And at beacon.la.org, we have two sections we have exactly for that. So if they're a resident of Altadena, they can sign up. If they are a business that wants to do work in Altadena, they can sign up. And we're going to start, town halls shortly. Like I said, once we get to a certain number, we're going to start holding meetings so that we can start providing strategies. We're in touch with some, political figures to see about funding. I'm new to this. I'm just jumping in. I'm like, how does all this work? You know what I mean? I know it's a big undertaking, but we have to do something. And so my idea to answer your question is I want subsidies for those people that lost their homes. And we have worldwide attention right now and we're not maximizing it. And that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to think future forward. How do we have a fund that's available when we start building? Because let's be honest, typical human behavior in 6 months, everybody's going to be like, oh, the fires, that was so 10 years ago. Right.
Yes. Yep.
So, how
The
do we get
cameras
the
are going to be
funding now?
gone.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like government is throwing billions right now. And where is that going? Where is that allocated? And I mean, even if it's like I said, I'm new to this, so this might be crazy, but even if it's an escrow account where it just accrues interest over the years, and then there's an application process where they come and say, I lost everything, here's my land, right? I can, here's my land. I would like to apply for a subsidy. And we have two levels of that, right? One for, like I said, the people that may not have been insured, you have up to a certain amount, and that's why it's a 501(c). Or the other side of that, where it's like, I don't have enough. Building costs 5 years later, I don't have enough. Oh, that's okay. We've been building and accruing interest over the years. We have you covered. You're not losing your home. And then conveying that message, that's the other thing, part to your question. If people want to volunteer, we're going to need volunteers with outreach, community outreach, letting people know that we're there, right? And it's going to be a process and, things will develop as we go, but having them hold on, having them have somewhere where it's like, where can I go for resources? Where can I go for, information? This person's trying to force me to sell. Where can I go for advice? Like, that's the biggest thing. Yes, lawyers are great. We're welcoming them into our network as well. We partner with IMW Law, like we have it. And there's so many other resources out there, but you just have to make sure that the intention is preserving the equity in Altadena, preserving your property. Have they gone with all measures? And through development strategies, I mean, there's going to be some people that want to sell. That's fine. There's going to be some people that want to repurpose their properties. How do I do it? Bam, you have access to developers. Oh, I don't have enough capital. I don't know how this works, but I could do a highest and best use of this. Okay, let's JV. We both win. We both keep equity. In 5 to 7 years, you can buy me out. We have all those solutions at our hands. When you hear the president say, I got my guys that know how to do this, we do too. That's what we're trying to say. We do too, on a massive level. We have developers that have built communities. We have developers that have built hospitals, museums, houses, multifamily buildings, all coming together. We could do this. We could do it differently. And it's
Right.
not taking business away from anybody because there, if there's 9 to 12,000 structures, we all are in this. And I even have beautiful contractors that are like, I'll even take my building cost per square foot down for Altadena residents.
Mm, yes, that's good. Okay. So it's so much. It's so many layers. I mean,
It is.
could talk real estate all day, and this has been so heavy in so many ways over the past few weeks. And like you said, once the film crew packs up, they're on to the next story, and the spotlight is on them no more. They're
Money is
still
going to
standing there
be
in front of the
hard
land.
to access.
Yeah. Yes. So definitely, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank
Um,
you.
definitely beaconla.org
Hmm.
to learn more about the work in Altadena. And anything else you want to tell anyone who's viewing this? We want to make sure people get the word out, share. Um, anything else you have?
I would say if you're listening to this and you know any builders, architects, that are good people that sincerely want to build in Altadena, please send them our way. Engineers, surveyors, whatever the like. If you're a client looking for, builders to partner up with, definitely check their license number on cslb.ca.gov. Make sure that their names match, make sure they're insured, they're bonded. And then I would also say, if you don't know what to do because you're getting pressured and you're in a hard situation, there are funding sources available. FEMA goes to the city, Red Cross goes to the city. I think SBA is direct. But there are other ways and other reliefs out there. I would just say, definitely stay in contact with your adjusters. Make sure that you take the time to itemize what you had in your property so you get the highest cost possible. And yeah, I would say just try to stay, do something that takes care of your mental health for sure. And we're here, we're here when you're ready. As things unfold, we definitely want to be a consistent resource. We definitely want to think about the future, not necessarily what is going on against all the rubble right now. So yeah, just keep your head up. It'll be great at the end, but we have to retain the equity of Altadena. We cannot go by what they're saying, an anticipated 30% maybe, when we're ready to rebuild. So there are strategies. Like I said, we're at the table and we're here. beaconla.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Erica. I really appreciate you. I'm going to have your website link below in
Okay.
the information. And I look forward to seeing everything, all the good works you're going to be doing in Altadena, you and your crew, all the people who are going to be volunteering and working with the residents there to rebuild Altadena and preserve the equity of the community.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. All right.